Faith, Love, and Therapy, a podcast to encourage and inspire. I'm your host, Jamie Johnson, a clinical therapist working in the field of mental health for the last 10 years. I believe this podcast is God-inspired and will be God-led. And I thank you for joining me as we peel back the layers of mental health from a faith perspective. If you want to connect with me, please follow me on Faith, Love, and Therapy podcast on Instagram. And also you can send me an email at faithlovetherapy@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you, hearing your questions, and seeing you on IG. So today I wanted to continue kind of this dialogue about some of the feelings, some of the experiences. You know, the last couple of episodes have been on mindset. And so this particular episode, I wanted to explore some of the, emotions that have affected our mindset. And this one, I would really like to start unpacking a little bit about anger. And so some of its underlying issues, I want to talk about anger. I want us to be honest about anger and the experiences that we have as a result of our anger. So, if y'all have followed me for a little while, I'm big on definitions, so I always try to define something first and then we go into it. And so if we just look at the definition of anger, it's a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. But understand that anger is not necessarily unhealthy. It actually has benefits, emotional benefits from expressing anger. And I want to start with the benefits of anger first, and then we'll go into some other things. So goodtherapy.com has a great article on this, and I share a lot of, I agree with a lot of what they discussed, and you can read the entire article, but I'm not going through the article, but it's a good resource. But some of the things that they list and that I can really say that I've seen as benefits of expressing our anger and a healthy anger, one is that anger is designed to promote survival. So like being able to express or feel our anger, it engages that part of us, that fight, flight, fear, that helps us to survive scary situations or difficult situations. So anger is useful in those moments. Anger is, when we express anger in a healthy way, there is actually this release that after we release the anger, we can begin to feel calm. So it's important that we are honest about how we feel and express our anger in a healthy way. Anger also provides a sense of energy. It energizes us. If you are honest about the times that you've expressed your anger or you felt anger, there's an energy that runs through your body. You do not feel weak. You do not feel tired. When you are angry, there's an energy that comes from it. It also motivates us to solve problems. So we can be motivated by the anger that we feel about a specific situation and like, I have to fix this. I want this to change. I want something to be different. And so that anger that we experience becomes a motivating tool or a catalyst for change at times. We begin looking for ways to solve that particular problem because we don't want to feel angry about it. We don't want to continue to move in the cycle that we're moving in. So anger does help us to start really honing in on how to solve this particular problem. Anger also makes us aware of injustice. The things that we see on TV, what our individuals are going through, we start to get enraged by mistreatment, by abuse, by lies, by the things we see our family experience, relational issues. The anger starts to kind of burn within us, so to speak, and it shows us where we see or can see an injustice, something that is not right, that is happening, should provoke a bit of anger in us, because then we become motivated, like I said, to work towards change. Anger also helps to drive us towards a goal. I don't know, if y'all think about your life, if you've been fed up with something, you begin to get angry about something, you're like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done experiencing this. I'm done, feeling this way. I'm angry with myself, or I'm angry with how this turned out. I'm angry with, some of the people in my life, and I don't want to experience this again. And so we start moving in the direction of a new goal. I'm going to do this a different way. So anger can actually push you towards your goals. Anger also can interject optimism. So it starts to help you think, I can achieve this. I'm going to push in the direction of my goal, and I can achieve it because I don't want to just focus on the pain. I don't want to just focus on the moment. I want to move towards something bigger, greater, better. And so that anger that we feel in the moment can then push us towards, okay, something has to change, and I believe it can change. I'm going to make sure that it changes because I'm empowered to do that. I have the ability to act. I have the ability to move in a direction to make things better for my life, to make things better at work, to make things better in my home, make things better in my relationship. That anger can then give birth to optimism, to be able to say, no, there's something that I can do about this. There's something I want to do about this. Anger also helps us to protect our belief system, our core beliefs, our values. When someone is infringing upon what we believe, or makes us feel uncomfortable based on our value, or presses in an area, they self-impose, or they interject themselves inappropriately in a way that bothers us, that pushes on our value system. It empowers us to say something about it. It empowers us to stand and be firm about what we value and what we believe. It also pushes us to reach a deeper self. So anger begins to provide insight about ourselves. Like, it is layered. There are layers of other emotions. And if you've listened to the podcast before, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but the underlying issues, anger is typically on the surface of what we see. But if we allow ourselves to sit with that anger and then go deeper, we can start to see the most hidden things about ourselves. We can start to follow the trail of anger and really start to dig down and address the source. And we're going to go into that in just a little bit. But also, anger can lead us to self-improvement. So as we're digging and finding that source, then we have a desire to change. It leads to more of a positive change because we're gaining insight on the issue. Anger can sometimes open the lens where we were kind of self-focused, or oblivious maybe sometimes to particular faults or shortcomings or issues. And then when we start to get angry and we look at it constructively, it starts to push us in the direction of self-improvement. And, I think people talk about it all the time, where, I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of experiencing this. So I'm going to get better. I think this is at the root of all of those glow up, not all of them, but many glow up videos that we see on social media when someone is left, or someone is treated poorly, or someone is cheated on. And it's that anger that starts to build then turns into, let me look at making myself better. And that self-improvement starts. And it may start with the idea of showing that person what they missed, but what is uncovered is really you seeing what you were missing, you starting to see what you really wanted, or who you can actually be. And so anger really does start to lead us. There's a possibility that can lead us, when it's healthy, towards the direction of self-improvement. And so let's look at how anger can derail us or become a problem. One of the things I see often is misguided anger. And so we begin to lash out on other people because we haven't addressed the root issues or the people that have hurt us. We haven't addressed the real issue, the underlying issues under some of the anger. And I don't know, so many in the world are talking about the Will Smith situation, and I'm not going to give too much energy to that, but just saying that his expression of anger, if anybody was watching or saw the clips, his expression of anger was not the result of all of a sudden in that one moment feeling angry. We can see that there were some underlying things. One, if you have, just kind of followed the Will and Jada saga, there are a lot of things going on there. And so there's a lot of underlying issues. And so there's misguided anger in that one moment of someone, of Chris Rock cracking a joke, where Will was probably angry for a lot of reasons. There were other things that were going on in his life. And so that's where we see that misguided anger, because the root issues have not been addressed. The hurt has not been healed. And so that's where we get derailed, is when we start taking things out on other people that we have the ability, if we choose to really start working through and allowing ourselves to heal from. Another thing that I see almost on the opposite end of the spectrum is overly accommodating people. because there's an unhealthy fear of anger. And I've seen this a lot with clients that have a significant trauma history that included some type of violence or anger. And so with these particular clients, they have experienced anger at a level that, led to abuse, neglect, whether it's domestic violence, whether it was sexual, physical, mental, any type of abuse. Anger is a lot of times attached to that. And so there's an unhealthy fear of anger, healthy in the moment. I don't want to say it's unhealthy, but there's a fear of anger. And so people become avoidant. They would rather not express anger, and they don't want to be around angry people. And they don't want to express anger because they are afraid that they will become what they've seen. A lot of times they're afraid, and it's like, I don't want to be that person. Where if we understood that processing our pain is a big part of changing how we react or how we respond to a lot of people. And so that is one of the other things that I say that derails us is we become overly accommodated. We become people pleasers. We suppress who we truly are in order, for the benefit of other people. And we are left a shell of ourselves because we are afraid to experience this level of emotion, thinking it's going to be too intense. Thinking that we're going to harm someone, thinking that we're going to hurt ourselves, thinking that we're going to become, what we've seen and what we witnessed. And that's not always the truth. Is there known, cycles of behavior? Absolutely. Family dynamics. A lot of times you'll see children that have grown up in domestic abuse, they end up finding someone that becomes more abusive or is, abusive in some way to them or their children. And so that is not, that doesn't have to happen. But many times it happens because there was no space for them to heal. There was no space for them to process their own pain. A lot of times there's no therapy. That stuff became normalized. And so it was just a part of life and they had to move on. But please know that moving on doesn't mean that things get better or that part of your life is not going to be repeated, or you're not going to have issues with that because you haven't really dealt with the underlying issues that are affecting you. Another thing that I think people don't really realize is that, anger can begin to transition to resentment. And, many people come into therapy and they say, I'm just so irritable. I'm just so angry and I want to deal with that. And part of that process is understanding, okay, what do you identify as the issues that are causing this anger? And then how is it showing up? And many start to express these issues with resentment. And what I want people to understand is that resentment and envy are cousins. They're in the same family. And so if you're really starting to experience resentment, I think we have to take a bigger look at the issue of envy and the impact of envy in your life. And I think in the body of believers, we know not to be resentful. And so we tend to express things in a way that would indicate that we're not resentful, but it really is. So, I've heard things like, every time I see Sister So-and-so, she on a vacation. Must be nice. All of these men are with mean women. And I'm single. Or, as hard as I work and he ended up getting the promotion. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying I work hard. We try to, we express ourselves, but we wrap it in like this. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be, I'm not envious, but I'm just saying, I'm just expressing how I feel. But being honest and saying like, I'm a little resentful. I'm a little upset that, I'm doing these things and yet I still don't have that reward, or yet I still don't get to go on vacation. And yet, I didn't get the promotion. And if we take the time to really process that, it probably goes back to the fact that, I'm envious that I don't have the time to take this vacation, or I don't have the relationship that I want to have, or I'm not where I want to be in my career. And we don't like envy because we know the word of God says that we're not to be envious, but it doesn't mean that we're not envious. That we need to take hold of. We need to be honest and transparent that many of us experience some level of envy, and we really have to take that before God, really processing that in our alone time, in our quiet time, and in therapy. So knowing that those statements, express a level of resentment, But resentment and envy they live in the same house, y'all. They live in the same house, and we need to be transparent about it. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." And so we already get a warning of how envy can destroy our lives, how envy can destroy us and destroy our progress. And I think really sitting with the impact of envy, that resentment, envy could lead to, being greedy, like going after just everything because we want it, because we don't want to be left out, because we don't want to miss out, because, so-and-so has this and I want it too. I don't know if y'all remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I love the original. I know it's been redone, but the original, and I think her name is Veruca, but she was the spoiled one who she wanted everything she saw, and she had that whole song, and she was like, "I want it now." And she was like the most envious child. Everything someone had, she wanted. And it ended up in her falling through that chute, and, they had to find her later. But envy leads us to places that we don't want to go. It leads us to dark places. We do end up missing out because of envy. We start rushing and trying to have things before we're supposed to. We have things out of season. We try to move ahead of God. We do become more and more resentful. It's hard for us to see what God is doing in our life because we're too busy looking at what other people are experiencing. And that sometimes begins to build and manifest as anger. And people are thinking, no, they just don't deserve it. Or they don't treat people well. Or they don't do this. And they're finding every reason to disqualify with it, which if they were just honest, they're experiencing envy. They're wanting what they don't have or what they see someone else have. And that also leads to, an unhealthy relationship with the Father, an unhealthy relationship with people in general, because there is this feeling of loss, this feeling that we're missing out on something, or that, God is not giving us the things that we're praying for, or even that, people are doing better and we're, worse off. And so our mind is becomes so negative and so consumed with what we are missing. And we don't realize that we're not missing anything. And if we allowed ourselves to walk this journey with God, we would not experience the level of envy that we do experience. And, I'm not saying this from a place of judgment. I'm saying this from a place of experience. God had to show me areas of resentment, and then take me back to the place of understand that, if you're resentful about not, being married, you're envying other relationships, and you're envying people that are married, and you're not allowing me to do what I need to do in this season. And I know I'm not the only one that it has ever experienced that. And so now I'm at a place where I'm enjoying the season that I'm in, and allowing God to do whatever God desires to do in the season in timing that he desires. But being able to be honest with God and, and allow him to pick those things apart and say, it's not what you think it is deeper than that. And so I would encourage you, as we take this look at anger, to really start to do a self-assessment. And this is a good time to pull out your journal and ask yourself a couple of questions. And remember, you can get your Faith, Love, and Therapy journal on Amazon. You can type that in. You can type my name in. And it's a good starter journal to just start writing your thoughts in. I want you to start asking a couple of questions. One being, what is making me angry? And some people are going to say, well, I'm not really angry right now. I'm not asking about in this moment if you're not angry. Think about the moments that you have experienced anger, or that you've had an outburst, or you've responded in a negative way because you were angry. What made me angry? Write that out. Write that complete experience out. Then also include, who am I angry with? Be honest, because some of those, if you're really honest with yourself, one of those answers should be you, because there's a part of you that you're angry with. And transparency is the road to healing. So if you can, there's going to be a list of other people, but you should be on that list, because there's something that you're angry with yourself about, that you didn't accomplish, that you didn't do right, that failed, whatever it is. And so including you is important. And the third question I would say is why? Why does this situation, why do these people, why does this person make me angry? And I've talked about before, whying it to the bone. Why it to the bone? Like as far as you can go, that you hit the bone you hit the source of the issue, and then sit with that so that you can begin to allow God to process the true issue and not continue to stay on the surface, not continue to have misguided anger, not continue to envy others, not continue to feel resentment, but allow whatever anger that comes up to teach you something about yourself. So I think, two things I want you to remember from this particular episode. Anger is not a sin. It is useful. It is beneficial. It can also be misguided, and it can be the cover of underlying issues. And so being willing to process it all, to be honest about it all, is necessary for our healing. So I hope this episode was healthy. Please take a look, or helpful and healthy. Please take a look at your anger, do some processing, do some journaling, and we'll talk some more. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Faith, Love, and Therapy, and I'll see you next time.